Okay everyone, so now that we are more familiar with using pixels and percentage, let's go and copy this file and talk about another set of CSS units that you might encounter and I'm sure you will be using, especially for responsive web design. So let me go and create a new file here, and I'm going to name it CSS units part 3.html. And in this specific lesson, I would want to tackle the topic about Rem and Em. So let me just go and create a header here, so at least we'll have something to distinguish our elements here. So h1, let's define this as a pixel and percentage lecture. And then I would want to create a div element here. I'm just going to copy this. So I'm going to put them, at least you'll have some sort of reference once we go and create our, once you download the files here, you will be having a reference. So I'm going to create here a div for our examples for Rem and a div for our examples for Em. Now let's go and type 1 Rem, and here let's go and type 1 Em. So if we go and try to see this in our document, we can now see that we have 1 Em and 1 Rem as text for two divs. So let me just go back here, and then let's go and style this Rem and Em. So I would want to have a background color of, let's say, aquamarine for the Rem, and a background color of, let's have here, blue violet. So now let's go and check our document here, and we can see that there's a background color already. Let me just go and copy some of the design that we have made in some of our previous boxes. Now if I go back to our document and refresh this, now we have two more boxes with 1 Rem as the main text and 1 Em. And if we try to go and check the root font size for this 1 Rem based from the content that we have here, we have a root font size of 16 pixels, and with the Em, let me just, the div Em, it also has a 16 pixels root font size. Just remember here that the R here for the Rem stands for the root element. So this will be relative to the root element, which is right now, if we go and look at it here, the root element is the HTML element, and it has a 16 pixels root font size, which got inherited by the body element, which is the parent element of the div element here. So we can see that the body element also has a root font size of 16 pixels, and the HTML element here has 16 pixels. So that's what the div Rem here is inheriting. So it will be relative to the root font size of the HTML element here. On the other hand, the Em div here will be inheriting the font size of the body element that we have here, because it's the parent element of the Em, and Em units will be inheriting the value, or will be related, or will be relative to the value of its parent element, which in this case is the body element. Now let's go back to our code here, and I'm just going to comment out this part so at least it will not be confusing you anymore, and place this inside of here. And now let's go and save that. Let's just check what happened here. Let me just close our developer tools. At least now we can focus on our next lesson here. So now going back here, I just want to go and copy this again. Control C and V, and then place it inside of a container. And we'll use the same container that we used earlier in our previous lesson. So let's go and Control Save. Now let's go check our document. And we can now see that we also have the container here. So what I want to do here is I'm going to remove the margin here by declaring a universal reset for our body element and for our whole document here. So let's go and do that. So we can actually do that by using a universal selector here, using the asterisk character. So I'm going to remove the margin and place it to 0. So let's see, and padding, let's also place padding 0. And then let's go check. So at least we will be able to see now that we have this margin here gone. And we are now occupying the whole viewport size of the screen. Now that we have here our container, let's go and change some of the font size in our document here for the rem div. We know that 1 rem is equivalent to 16 pixels based from the root font size. And here we have font size of 1 em, which will be equivalent to the parent element. So this is going to be relative to the parent element. And here we have this to be relative to the root font size. Relative to the root font size. So that we can see some difference. Let's go and place a font size inside of our parent container here. So let's give this a 30 pixels font size for our container here, for the div container that we've, from where we placed the, let me just format this. Now we can see that we have 2 div elements here with same properties as the ones that are here on top. So let's go and check. Let's save this and let's go and check our document. What will happen? So now you would see that the 1 em that we have here has increased, but the 1 rem here is still based from the root font size and still related to the 16 pixels default value of our browser for the font size. So if we go to our developer tools here and try to check, if we go and check our 1 em content here, we have 1 em. And if we go check on the container, let's go look for the container. So this is the container that we've, from where we've set the 30 pixels here. If I go and try to increase this, let's see what will happen. The 1 em is also increasing. So 1 em is equivalent to 60 pixels now. If I decrease it, it will be decreasing and it will now be back to 16 pixels. If I want to increase it, so it's relative to the parent element. The size of the 1 em value here is relative to the parent element. Now, if I go and try to change the value here, you will see that the em here is not being affected, mainly because it is the parent element of this div element. If we try to look at our code here, is the body element. So we can see here that this element here, this specific element here, is related to the body element, which is inheriting the root value for the font size coming from the root element here, which is 16 pixels. Now, if I go and try to change the size of the root element here, you would see that the other 3 div elements are changing their values. And we can see that the 1 rem inside of the container is now also basing its font size based from the change that we are doing from the root element. So now it's already 49 pixels, 45 pixels. So this will be very, very important, especially if you're going to be building your sites for responsiveness. It's a good practice that we set our font size here in the root element so that it will be a lot easier for us to change the different sizes of our fonts easily, especially if we will be scaling our projects or we will be making them responsive for mobile and other devices. Some key things to take home here will be that rem is based from the root font size and em will be based from the parent element. And the good thing about us using relative rem units and changing all of our pixel values to relative rem units, it can help us change the measurements in our page with a simple setting. If, for example, we want to hit a breakpoint to display our page in a mobile device, we can go and decrease all of the measurements on our sites all at the same time just by using a single HTML root declaration here for the font size. As we've seen in our example, it's changing the 3 div elements and we are just using a single value here in the setting that we have set in the root font size. So again, it will be very, very useful, especially if we will be building a responsive web design, or we will be building a responsive website. I hope you got the idea here that the to div here, that is the upper section of our document, was rendering 16 pixels for the property value for the font size, and here we were able to change that based from the container font size for the EM, and still the rem div here in this section, which is contained inside of the container, still retained the value of the root font size. Let's say we have here the root font size, and we had that as at 16 pixels was the default value. So if we go and try to refresh our document here, so let me just refresh this, you would see that the one rem here, the one EM here, and the one rem here has the same font size value. We can see here that the one EM retained its font size, which is 30 pixels based from our document here. We've declared inside of the parent container here that it has a font size of 30 pixels, and this font size here inside of this div element is relative to the parent element, and it's rendering 100% of the font size of the container element. So that will be 30 pixels. Remember that that just means that 1 EM is equals to 30 pixels. And 1 REM here is the 100% of the root font size, which is the font size that we have declared inside of our HTML element here. So I hope you got the idea here, guys. And one key note that we have to take note here, that EM is quite difficult to manage. That's why we don't use them too much, because there's a probability that they might end up, let's say I'm going to go and put this here, and let's give this a 2 EM here and EM2. And if I go and copy the background here, or let's copy that and create an EM2 declaration here. Let's see what will happen. So we have an EM2 here, and change this to EM. Now it's double the size of the declaration that we've made here. So that means we have 2 EM 60 pixels here. So let's go and try to see that in our browser here. Let's see what's the default value here for 2 EM, and computed value will be, the font size is 60 pixels, as you can see here. So that will be the double the size of your parent element, which is the container here. So here, if we try to check here and see the computed value, we can see that the font size is 30 pixels, which is the font size of the container here. Okay, so this is not this is quite difficult, especially if you're going to be nesting one element to another element. So let's say we use another element inside of this, and you maximize the use of EM. It will grow exponentially, and technically it will be hard to manage. So let's go and try to see if we try to go and nest an element here, and we place a P element here with the 3 EM text, and then inside of our CSS styling here, we go and select the element selector for the paragraph element and declare a font size of, let's say, 3 EM, and refresh and save that. And then let's go and refresh this. Let's see what will happen. You would see now it's triple the size, because the parent element of this element is the div element that we have here, which is the 2 EM div element. So if we try to go and look at the code computation here, computed value. So if we try to select the paragraph element, let's look for that paragraph element here. You would see that it has a 180 pixels, because that will be the computed value for the 60 pixels here. So let's go and compute that here in our calculator. So 60 times 3 EM, which is the paragraph's parent element's value for its font size, which is 60 pixels. And if we try to compute that, that will be, that will be 60 times 3 is equivalent to 180. So you would see that's really growing, and the computation is going to be more and more difficult once we try to use EM, especially when it comes to resizing our documents here. So it's really, really much better to use REM, especially if we will be maximizing uh, the development of responsive web design, from where we will be scaling certain parts of our document, or we will be considering the different device types from where our website will be viewed by our users. So let's say mobile devices, or tablets, or laptops, or desktops. So it will be a lot better to create our sites using relative units such as REM, because it will be a lot easier for us to change the font size when we try to go and work on responsiveness for different screen sizes. So we just need to go and change one setting here, which is the font size property inside of our HTML element. Just remember, it's not a good practice to maximize the use of pixels when we are declaring here inside of the HTML element, because this will be removing the ability of our users to resize the browser, which is something that is commonly done by some of the users, especially those who have bad eyesight. Let's say they go and resize the site. So you have to also consider this once you're building your website. And if you maximize the use of pixels and result, this might break the design of your site. So it's really better that if you're going to be using some relative units in the root element, it will be much better if you use percentage. This has been a long lecture, and I'm really glad that you're still with me. So I'm hoping that you learned a lot in this lecture about how to maximize the use of REMs and EMs. So see you on the next video.